Chaim V'rocha. So we continue the mimer, trying to understand the essence of the soul that is revealed in two basic circumstances. So we explained, and we'll briefly explain, that at a time of challenge, difficulty, it comes from the outside, not from within. Although, of course, everything is dealt from within. But the challenge is a challenge from without. As when this discourse was originally said by the previous Rebbe in 1927, communist informers were even at the Farbrengen. Eventually led to his imprisonment. But the Chassidim gave of the Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice. But self-sacrifice means beyond the human condition. Human condition is you don't sacrifice yourself unless you have a gain from it. So you go to work and you sacrifice your time, you sacrifice your effort for the job, but that's because you're going to get something from it. A paycheck at the end of the day, not really sacrifice. How about when you sacrifice for your kids? Where's that coming from? Is it really beyond the human condition, or is that the human condition? I think there is and there is. I don't think that's but here we're talking about communism that was trying to eradicate Judaism, eradicate God from the lexicon. And people stood up for it. Self-sacrifice beyond reason. Unreasonable, as a matter of fact. But how much did it affect their internal life? It did, but not really. And the proof is that after the external pressure wasn't there anymore, how much self-sacrifice did they live by? Not nearly the same. Because it wasn't self-generated. It didn't come from within. So it didn't affect the mind and the heart in a complete transformation of it. For sure it did on some level, but not, now things are good. But because things are good, that means you don't have to sacrifice. Sacrifice is not when things are only difficult. When is that expressed? That will be expressed that the challenge that you're dealing with, the pain even, right? The crushing experience is not external, but it's produced from within. Meaning, you've got everything materially and spiritually, but yet the fact that you are in exile, and not just you personally, because you might be living an inspired life that is actually beyond the exile, right? As the righteous do, at least. But yet you're pained because there isn't revelation of godliness in some corner of the world. That pains you. Now, that's coming from the core of the soul. Just like self-sacrifice comes from the core of the soul, right? It doesn't come from true self-sacrifice doesn't come from feelings and doesn't come from intellect. Intellect will never bring you to sacrifice because intellect is rational. Irrational will lead you to rationality to do something that's good for you. Intellectually good for you. Emotional will bring you to do things that are emotionally good for you. But it'll never go beyond that. That's why it's called self-sacrifice. And that's why it's an expression of something deeper of the individual, of the core of the soul. But yet, it doesn't, again, it's the way the core of the soul is um, beyond. And since it's beyond, therefore it doesn't affect that which is within. And what's within? Your intelligence and your emotions. So it doesn't truly affect it. However, if the essence of the soul is being revealed because it is self um, generated, not because of something on the outside, right? Why would it bother you that, you know, uh, that, I don't know, well, we told the story of a family that was a story with the Rebbe's shliach emissary in Europe that Rabbi Chodakov told him, drop everything a few days before Passover, where he was preparing for 400 people to come to his Seder. He said, drop everything, go to this town and look for a Jew. No name, no contact, just go. It was 4 or 5 hours away from where he lived. Dropped everything, went, couldn't find him. Finally, at the gas station, he asks, says he's like ready to leave, completely dejected, a failure. Is there any Jews in town? He says, not really here, but just a little further from here. There's a butcher. He's Jewish. Goes there, but walks in, butcher sees him. He faints. When he comes to, he tells him, I've been living here for many, many, many years since after, I think it was since the war. I think this is story maybe in the 60s or something like that. And the the priest or the minister in town, and for years bothering him and his wife and his two daughters, teenage daughters, who are, my wife is Jewish, kids are Jewish, but don't lead a Jewish life. Convert, convert. We always held them off. Finally said, which was a dagger in our heart. Your God doesn't care about you being Jewish, and no Jew cares about you being Jewish. Ooh. So told him, give me 7 days. 7 days, come here at 6 o'clock. Well, you came quarter to six, 15 minutes before the deadline. The Rebbe cared, therefore sent an emissary. Go immediately. Drop everything. Because there's a Jew who's considering to leave the fold. Like, if he left the fold, who would know? Who would care? Who cares? Like, Does a tree in the forest make noise when no one's there? Who cares? So that's what means to care. Why? Because it's self-generated. The fact that there is godliness that's lacking somewhere, and that you feel, and that leads you, that pains you. That can't be generated from the outside. No one can. You can be inspired maybe by that story. You could be inspired by the teachings, but in the end, it's only self-generated expression of the core of the soul. And so this is different than the other expression of the core of the soul, self-sacrifice. Right. This also led this person to, I mean, for the shliach that is went on self-sacrifice. He put everything that was important to him, 400 people coming for Passover, and that he had to prepare for that a few days before the holiday. The Rebbe says you do, but he didn't realize what he was coming to. By the way, a few years later, when that shliach emissary was in Israel, someone taps him on the shoulder and says to him, "Shalom Aleichem, welcome. How are you?" He didn't recognize him. He says, "Well, I'm that butcher. My wife and I realized that we can't stay in this small town, wherever, I don't remember, I don't know where it was in Europe exactly. And we have to go to Israel so we can lead a Jewish life," and became observant. In any case, so this idea that the essence of the soul, the core of the soul, is revealed because you feel crushed. Crushed because we're in exile. Crushed because Mashiach isn't here. Crushed because there isn't godliness revealed in the entire world. Right? Which will express itself in the story that we just told. It'll express itself that there's an opportunity to put on tefillin with a Jew, and you feel that the importance, the value of that person having godliness in their life in that moment, by way of example. Like you go out of your way, right, for that individual. Now, sometimes it could be because, it could be for various reasons what motivates a person to inspire another person. It could be that, you're going to feel guilty if you didn't, you had the opportunity, you're going to feel guilty, you did. Or it's going to be that you feel great about yourself, that you inspired another person and brought godliness to their life, right? So we're not talking about that. Those are natural things that a person will have. But the deepest one is because the core of the soul is godly. So, therefore, when there isn't godliness somewhere, that pains you and leads you to want to reveal that godliness. But what that means in the person, though, where is that godliness revealed in the individual who's pained by the fact that there isn't godliness everywhere in the world, or lacking somewhere in the world, right? It will it will express itself in the person, in every aspect of the person. And others, it will be internalized intellectually, in the mind, and in the heart. Whereas self-sacrifice, it's an expression of the core of the soul also, won't express itself in the form of intelligence and emotions, not truly, but this will. Because what's the core of your intelligence? Godliness. What's the core of your emotions? Godliness. What's the core of everything is godliness, right? Not self-sacrifice. That's beyond. That's not the core. Godliness is the core. So in this respect, the fact that's the core uh, of everything, the core of you. So when you reveal it, right, then in other words, what's I don't know, bothering you is the right word. What is leading you to be, what pains you? Huh? Because here we're talking about that you're crushed, right? So what pains you? So what pains the animal soul? Pain itself, because it doesn't want to have pain. Right? What pains the body? Pain itself. It doesn't want to have pain. Right? What pains the godly soul? In the end, the lack of connection, the lack of godliness. The core of that soul, so the outer layer of the soul, it'll be for yourself. The core of that soul, of the godly soul, not that you are connected or not, that there's a lack of a connection, period. There's when the Rebbe was a little boy, I don't know if he was 5 or 6, I'm not certain, something like that. And this is in Ukraine and Dnieper, you can translate Slav, or yeah, well, I'm not certain exactly where it was. In any case, he was playing on a hot summer day ball, and he was wearing a cap. He's wearing, it was, good morning, Yaakov Yehuda. But he was wearing a cap. Oh, shkayach. And he, so there was an older Jew who said to him, young boy, you're sweating up, take you're wearing your cap, maybe take it off so you won't sweat so much. You have to have my head covered. I don't know if he had his head covered. I'm not certain that this older man. So the older man says, we're a young boy. It'll be on me, your sin. I don't know if he said sin. I don't remember. So the Rebbe, a 5-year-old kid, says, what's the difference if the sin's on me or the sin's on you? Now, who thinks that way, right? In other words, I don't want the sin on me because I don't want to have the pain of the sin, right? Whether the pain physically that comes from sin, the pain emotionally or psychologically that comes from sin, right? Well, we all know that. We all feel that the pain of, right? And the Rebbe is, what's the difference? Means there's a lack of godliness. somewhere, whether it's in me, because I won't have my head covered, it'll be you, because the sin's upon you. What's the difference? There'll be a lack of godliness. So from the core of the soul, because it's rooted in the essence of God himself, and God himself produces godliness, right? Where is godliness? In my soul, in every aspect of my soul, there is godliness. Meaning to say that when I'm crushed because of godliness is lacking somewhere, not because it's lacking by me, then it's about me. It's not about godliness. It's about godliness that's lacking in the world. And that bothers you, right? That's a true expression of the core of the soul that will express itself in every aspect of your soul, in your intelligence too. It won't, it's not beyond your intelligence. It will be also integrated into your intelligence and into your emotions, into your inner world. Amazing, amazing. All right, folks, we'll see you shortly. Homisharashi.